Hello and welcome to One Talk Radio podcast. My name is John Gora, and as usual, this is a podcast where we bring you guests, we bring you people and personalities that are creating impact and influencing our societies today. And as you can see, I have a brother, I have a friend, I have a gentleman who has been doing great things outside there, all the way from Kenya. And right now, as I understand, is talking or speaking to us from one of the smallest or biggest towns in Kenya, that is Narok, if I'm not
Naraka.
wrong.
Yes.
Mr. Andrea, welcome to One Talk Radio podcast, Andrea.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes. Uh, just to talk a little about Andrea, or the smallest I know, because it's always beautiful to let a person introduce himself and tell the people and the audience who they are. But I
Mm,
know Andrea as a youth leader, passionate about governance and youth empowerment, and he's currently working with a number of youths in rural Sierra County. Is also
yes.
concerned about mental health awareness and is a public speaker on matters youth, mental health
Yes.
issues, and teenage counseling. And something that you also need to know about Andrea and that you should check on Facebook is Andrea the poet. This is a guy
I
who will make your day. He's a guy who will, inspire you by the passion that he puts into his pen. And that's where I came to know about Andrea. And when the day went by, I came to realize that he's a guy who's coming just next to my door. So we've been brothers, we've been friends for quite a
sure,
good
sure.
time. So Andrea, today will be discussing with us a very, very important topic uh, about a veiled pain, and most of us will not understand that, Andrea. So in the shortest way possible, Andrea, let us
Yes.
understand who are you and along your passion, why have you decided to do that? And what is the meaning of this veiled pain to you, Andre?
Thank you so much, John. And I'm so happy to be here today to do this interview with you. Uh, who am I? I am a teacher by profession, and it means that I interact with so many young people, teenagers, most of the time. And with my knowledge in guidance and counseling, I have used my knowledge to access these people and try to understand them. What are the things that they battle with? And in the process, I came to learn because a youth's identity also reflects your own identity when you were young. And therefore, I began a journey of trying to know me and trying to use what I know about myself to help this younger generation that are having pain that is veiled. A veil is something that covers the face. Like before a wedding, you have to unveil your your bride.
Right.
So yes. So the same way, we have so many young people with a lot of challenges, a lot of pain inside them, but it is veiled. Like today, if you have a conversation with a youth on phone, like how are you? I am fine, but nobody bothers to ask them how are you really? Like how are you indeed? Like honestly, how are you? So there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of pain that goes inside these people, but it is veiled with the word I am fine or I am doing fine. And that's why uh, recently and now the talks that I've been engaging in is all about unveiling the pain. And therefore, I title it Veiled Pain. Thank you.
That is a great one, Andrea, and it shows how passionate you are about the youths. And that I love that because just like we shared in my last podcast with one of great guy also Rob House, it's like we are living a life of hidden treasure. It
Yes.
is the I am fine, like just like you're putting it, but inside heart there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of hidden struggle, there's a lot of I'm not fine, but
Very
because
true.
of pride, because of, wanting to fit into the society, we tend to, forget about it and just keep it calm. I am fine. So,
Yeah.
Andrea, we are struggling. And
Yeah.
today is a day of men, especially. I wanted us to handle men because we've talked about women for so long. And people are
Yes.
forgetting that men are also part of the society and they are also vulnerable. The
Mm.
strength was bestowed to us by God to be the leaders or the heads of homes and houses. But then, as much as we are empowering women, we are in a society today where we see ourselves as equal. And there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of struggles within the circle and the environment of a man.
Mm-hmm.
And a big number of them we've seen going for suicide as an alternative. We've seen a good number going into depression that has,
Mm-hmm.
caused a lot of pain, and also not only to them but also to their families and friends.
Yes.
So before we discuss this man, I
Mm-hmm.
want to take you down into, understanding who exactly is a youth. And when we stop talking about the political youth, because in a world of politics, even at 100 years somebody will still be calling himself a youth. So to you, who is a youth exactly? Who do we define or put in the age set or age group of a youth, Andrea?
Okay, I'll use the universal knowledge of who is a youth. Anybody from 13 years to 35 years falls under the bracket of a youth. So this is this is my area of focus. I work with people within this range, and I thank God I got to the third floor recently, and now I am beginning now the last phase of being a youth, and therefore we explore more into understanding people who now gets to 30s to 35. But the real challenge is from 19 years to 35 years. This is where we have so many guys who are battling with a lot of issues because you are not young enough to be a child and you're not old enough to be a man. So at that point, you are in some crisis. And this crisis is what now brings the pain. And because of the what we call machismo, like some pride, you want to be a man, the bravado in you tries to make you look like you are okay. And in the process of acting like you are okay, you try to have a mask, which is not really you. And that's why you hear very successful people that look very happy commit suicide, and you wonder, what are they missing in life that makes them commit suicide? So I like giving examples of those people who have done it, the very great people that are known that struggled despite having the success. So if you look at that age bracket where you're not young enough to be a child and you're not old enough to be a man, and at the same time, you've lacked a man in your life to guide you through the maze of masculinity. There's a lot of chaos that comes with you being a man. There is a lot that you need to be taught on how to be a man. But we don't have fathers in our lives to channel this direction for us. There are absent fathers out there, and that's why we are struggling.
Wow. That's really really wonderful, Andrea. And I I lack words to add into what you have said, and I really believe that that is the truth of the matter, and that is what we have on the ground as it
Yes.
as the norm goes today. That the ground is different. That is the fact,
Yes.
because we see a lot of people who have, to us, and this is what I say to each and everyone every time I meet people and we are discussing. Let us stop seeing success by our eyes.
Yes.
Yes, that is where the rain started beating us. That success is looked at by a way of just, okay, he's driving a Lamborghini, he's having businesses. Some of these people are dying, and they're
Yeah.
dying out of the veiled pain, just because we
Yes.
are looking at success with our eyes and not taking our time to find out what is
Yes.
the hidden pain within these
Mm-hmm.
people. So,
Sure.
in line with that, Andrea, and coming to the main topic of discussion today, what is
Yes.
the biggest challenge of being a youth today, especially in Africa? And, because the reason why I ask this question, we've seen a lot of politicians, and especially during the campaigns, they
Yes.
focus much on youth and promises to the youth. Oh, we will
Mm-hmm.
give jobs to the youth. We will open up this to the youth. So, what are the challenges? Why is it that if each and every 5 years, like for example in Kenya, the
Yes.
politicians will still be coming talking about we are going to open up jobs for the youths, we are going to do this? What are the challenges? Why are we not getting these jobs after all?
Okay. As somebody who is also interested on matters governance, I will be very honest about this. Uh, the politicians look at the youth. Politicians work with numbers. They hire researchers to go and check out for them, like how many people can we have in terms of youth, in terms of the women, in terms of with different age brackets. And they capitalize on that because they know the audience, that a good number of those people who attend the rallies are the youth. And therefore, they tell them something that they want to hear. They give them promises like, if I get to power, this is what I'm going to do for you. But are our youth able to strategically position themselves so that the politicians can reach them with the resources? Do they know? Do they have the right mind to strategically place themselves so that they can tap this particular knowledge? They don't. Because number one thing that youths do that they don't know is harming them is allowing a politician to buy your voice. I always refuse to be bribed by a politician. I always refuse to be at the mercy of a politician. I want to meet them, but I want them to engage me on matters that are going to develop me, that is going to expose me to many other arena where I can tap whatever I'm looking for. And therefore, when you allow bribery, like you allow yourself to be bribed, that is number one danger, because once you take the money, your voice is shut. You have to say, you have to sing to the politician the tune that he wants to listen to. So that is number one. Number two, the youths who have the means. I mean, there are those who are in government. There are youths who have knowledge. They don't want to share with others because it looks more like a competition. They are scared, like, if I lift you up, you're going to be at my level, and therefore I can't share my resources. Number three is lack of information. We don't want to access information. For instance, now we have the BBI. I go back to my constituency and ask them, what is your take on the BBI? The people who are allied to different political parties, they say as long as their party leaders oppose it, they oppose it. Or as long as their party leader supports it, they support it. So youth don't want to put in work. They don't want to engage. They don't want to sweat so that they can access what is rightfully belonging to them. And the biggest challenge is that youth don't know how to strategically position themselves so that they can benefit from any development agenda within their areas.
Wow. My friend,
Yeah.
that's wisdom, Andrea, and I believe and I trust what you're saying, that it is lack of positioning ourselves in a place where the resources can reach to us and we can reach the
Yes.
resources. Because
Mhm.
there's one time I remember, it was in 2012. It could be 2012 or 2013,
Yes.
where youths were forming groups,
Mhm.
CBOs and youth groups, to tap money, the youth fund,
Mhm.
with an
Yes.
intention and mind that once you
Mhm.
get this money, you can avoid paying it back. You
Yes.
understand that kind of
Yes.
mindset? The mindset
Mhm.
is like, we can tap this money and no one will follow us. Like, once you get that money, nobody will follow you. So
Yes.
let's go and get it. They're
Yes.
not focusing a mind with a
Mhm.
resourced, knowledge that once we get this money, this is where we're going to channel it, so that
Yeah.
at least after 1 year or 2 year, we can be able to repay this loan.
Yes.
That kind of mindset is what we are lacking. And at times I tell people that we should not cry to the government, but we should cry to ourselves. We should,
Yes.
try to do recheck,
Yeah.
try to put a list and check and see what are we not doing right. Like you've brought
Yes.
this discussion of the BBI. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen youths engaging in the BBI political part of the BBI and not the economical or
Economic
development
part.
part of the BBI. I've not heard
Yes.
anyone speaking about it. I've not heard the
Yes.
youths, talking or having a discussion of what has the BBI for us. What does
Mm.
it bring on table for the youths? This is the discussion we need now. We need to put into on the table and stop talking about the political part of it. Let us leave the politicians to discuss their part. And once
Yes.
they discuss and they bring it to us, we will tell them no, this is not what we want. And
Mm-hmm.
we should as well focus on the youth side. Let us focus on what we want the BBI to do for us, and then push it to them and tell them, no, we are youths, we need 70% or 90% of the resources to go for development, and
Mm-hmm.
10 or 30% to go for other things.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
the talk we are not having, and it is what is derailing most of the youth in Africa. And thank you so much for bringing it up. And
Mm-hmm.
you've talked about competition as well, and
Yes.
this is another biggest hinder that we are having as a society, and especially as a youth. You
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of people having resources that can be
Mm-hmm.
shared, but
Mm-hmm.
after a certain time, these resources disappear. They just melt. Reason being, it was being used, selfishly, just with
Yes.
another mind of fear that if I will give Andrea a space to speak,
Yes.
like on my
Yes.
podcast, if I will invite Andrea, who is also
Yes.
coming from my, nativity, I'll
Yes.
be, giving him time to show off what he's
Yes.
got in his
What
brains.
he's got. Yeah.
But this is not the way to take it. And I really appreciate you bringing it up and reminding the youths that it is not competition. It
It
is,
is not.
it is about
It's empower.
collaboration.
Yes.
Yes,
Empowering one another.
yes, yes.
Yes.
It is a co-competition. You need
Yes.
to cooperate. You need to collaborate
Yes.
to
Mm.
maximize fully the resources that we have as a youth. So
Yeah.
that brings me to the question: uh, do we as youths, reflect back to our history as Africa? Do we have the knowledge to, see how those who made Africa what it is today used to do their things? Were they working individually, or were they forming groups? Were they coming together to unite to do something? Do you think we have the history in our hands, Andrea?
Wow. Such a huge question for me. But I've always been at war with the students of history. You see, our university education is twisted in a way that once you are done with your learning, we don't have people taking seriously whatever is said to them during the graduation. The biggest thing I took from my graduation, the ceremony, during the ceremony, was that I was conferred the powers to read. But historians are so contented with the little history that they learned in school, the little history that they learned in classes. So from there, you realize that we are a country that we don't know our history so well. We know what was given us in the syllabus to
Mhm.
run a particular curriculum. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
And that's why students of literature, I would say I'm proud as a student of literature because we explore beyond what is just there in the curriculum or in the syllabus for us. Because you try to meet people, you are reading autobiographies, you're reading about Winston Churchill, and you're going to read more about world history than what you just know. And therefore, we have less history of who we are as Africans. I've always had a very big battle with people I would call the purists, or these guys who are a little bit more religious, and their minds do not want to explore beyond the history of things like, let's say, homosexuality, for instance. They say it is an African, and full stop. But nobody is going into the pages to read, like, I want to know where where did it come from? Is it true that it is a Western practice? But it is not, because if you read through history, you learn that the Yoruba of Nigeria were practicing it. In Baganda, until very recently, before the advent of Christianity, King Mwanga was practicing it. Another instance, and another phenomena that I really argue with people is the issue of Pan-Africanism. They stage Pan-Africanism to the level of like Dubois, Booker T. Washington, and that's the end of it, because that is what the syllabus provides for them. They can't dig beyond what is in the syllabus. Take feminism, for instance. Many people are riding on feminism, and they're just believing on stereotypes because they haven't really gone deep through the pages to discover what is it that it is there. And trust me enough, many of youths today are riding on history, the shallow history that was provided in the syllabus. Not a good number has read even the history of Kenya to know where our fight for independence came from. Their names they don't know. So recently, I was reading a lot of issues on how Mandela failed South Africa and all that, when we were having xenophobia in South Africa. And I really wanted to come out and table a case for Mandela to defend him, because these people that are now protesting and saying, oh, Mandela did not do a lot, these are Kenyans, they are, we call them keyboard warriors. They don't know how the freedom of South Africa was won. For them, they just know Mandela was arrested. There were people outside there who were fighting on his behalf. He came out, he became the president, and that's it. So there's a lot into history. There's so many unsung heroes in South African fight for independence. If I give them a single book, Conversation with Myself, Mandela himself doesn't recognize himself as the one who fought the most. He recognizes other people who stayed out there, who ran into exile and everything. But he played a very bigger role. And for them, they want, like, Mandela ought to have come out and said, oh, we don't want whites, we have to regain our lands. They're not aware of the international communities that also piled pressure on him. And he had to abide by it, because there were bodies like the UN who are now trying to bring world peace. They won't go to that extent. Their shallow history guides them. They want to be very radical, and they keep telling you this is how it ought to have been done. A very big danger amongst the youth. People who are not aware of their history. That's it.
Wow. Thank you so much, Andrea, for bringing that. And I agree with you. We have failed as a society. We have failed, and as you've put it, that there are those who we call keyboard warriors. It is what is even garbaging the society today, because at times you see a headline with a link where you need to click and go and read something about it and give your opinion. But people won't click that link. They'll just see the headline, and the keyboard warriors start to type. And when you read 90% of the response in the comment section, you get the 90% is out of the topic. They really they just see, and something that is also exciting about this is, like, the media and the social media fraternity have also learned that a lot of us are not, clicking this link. So they use very radical headlines and highlights to bring about communication, bring about comments and opinions, and argument, because everybody wants to be seen. They are on the commercial, business, and they don't care about it. I remember last time when I was having a live conversation, and you told me, John, the media is not to be blamed. And I went back and thought about that. And I was like, why did Andrea tell me that the media is not to be blamed? And then
Yeah.
I came back to my senses and I said, yeah, these people are into business and they have to make
Yes.
business,
They are in
because
the
if they
business.
don't, they will close down.
Yes.
So it is us to refocus our mind and find
Yes.
out the
Mm.
truth and what we need to do and the don'ts that we need
Yes.
not to involve ourselves with. So
Yes.
to sum up this conversation, Andrea, I'll bring your attention into, giving a piece of advice on how we can capitalize on the available resources, and also how we can, I just want you to discuss, to make it broader, on how we can
Mhm.
capitalize on the available resources, and also how we can help these I am fine to get
Mm.
back into, basically, I'm not doing well. And this is the reason why I'm not doing well.
Mm.
What are
Yes.
we supposed to do? You, as a speaker and as a person who has been doing this for some time, what are you telling your audience every time you meet them to help them realize that we have the resources all available, and we have friends who can help us,
Yes.
solve some of our problems and talk to us to get us out of depression. And suicide is never a solution to any
Mm.
problem, however big it is, Andrea.
You brought about two very sensitive issues, and
Yes.
I'm very sure I will major on the issue of the mental illness, the suicide bit. But
Mhm,
just to answer your first question, I'm always clear with youth. I always tell them one simple thing: place yourself strategically so that you can benefit from little resources that this government provides.
mhm,
Placing yourself strategically simply means have the information,
mhm,
know who to collaborate with. When you
mhm.
form like the CBOs, community-based organizations,
Yes,
form them with an objective to serve the society. Let somebody see what you have done before they can pump in their resources to help you out. So
exactly.
it's not about you doing something for your personal gain. No, you cannot gain before you sweat. So you have to really put in your resources, pump your resources, your knowledge, find the right people to collaborate with, form this organization so that it becomes so easy for a politician to give you a platform. If you go like, I am Andreas, I've come to see you. I wanted to talk to you about some people in my village, or some young people who can't afford fees. It becomes your personal issue, and the politician will look at it twice. But if you go as an organization, you go with a team. This is a committee who are in charge of whatever area you're dealing with. It becomes very easy. There is this last bit of mental health that you also wanted us to talk about. I think I will go through it now. I was just checking through the data, or the data on how many people have committed suicide since 2018, or the year 2018 as a whole. You learned that 800,000 people had committed suicide worldwide. Of these 800,000, a good number comes from 75% come from middle and lower class earning the wage, like middle and lower wage. So Kenya being part of a country where a good number of people earn so lowly, I took a very keen observation of Kenya as a country, and I learned that 1,351 people committed suicide in 2018 alone. Of these, uh, they shared the ratio in 4.7 to 1.7, that is male female, meaning 4.7 male committed suicide and compared to 1.7 females, which makes it like of the 1,351, 992 were male who committed suicide. And therefore, you ask yourself, why more men? So when we get back to it, you learn that we have problem with communication in men. It is the sole reason because men tend not to share. what they're going through. Men have got the veiled pain that I was talking about. They act, I am okay. You ask them anything, they tell you, I am okay. And therefore, women win because they share more of what is going through them. Men don't want to admit when they're struggling financially. Men don't want to admit when they're having a bad relationship. Men don't want to share when they're having uh, issues with the past, like uh, they were molested or abused by their parents or whoever. They don't open up, and therefore it becomes a much bigger challenge. And therefore, when we condition our children from a younger age that a boy is not supposed to cry or to express emotions, it becomes a much bigger problem in the future. It's a pent up pain. We pent the pain up so that they don't say it. And this is where they are struggling. A good number of men are struggling because you're not supposed to express your weakness. And they opt for things like now what we call self-medication. They go to drugs, they go to alcohol, and eventually reality faces them and they have nothing to do. So as somebody who works with young people, I always don't like just looking at the causes. I always want us to look at the solution and what is the way forward. We have a churches, and churches has the biggest number of people who attend. That is one thing that is for sure. So many people attend churches. We have schools, we have men's club or men's meetups, and we have like uh, uh, open forums where people come to share. So the church needs to stop looking into preaching the gospel of prosperity, how you can make it in life and all that. Let's come back and save the male. Let's come back and have men's Sundays or men's Saturdays or men's Fridays where we can share the challenges that men go through, bring facilitators, bring resource persons to help men discover who they are, because these challenges they're very broad. Men have very broad challenges, but they don't want to open up. Let's bring people who have agreed to, to tell their stories so that they can heal other men. You see, and the biggest challenge, John, that you'll agree with me, is that the institution of marriage is failing, and a good number of women. I read a lot on social media, and I have so many friends who tell me or just share online that marriage is overrated, marriage is a cage, marriage is slavery. So we have people who are now scrapping off marriage, and marriage or a family is the basic unit of any community. I am reading a very interesting book that has actually opened my eyes so much. The book is titled Emotions by T.D. Jakes. This book here, it's a very interesting book, and it tells us the role of the male figure in the family, both to the boy and both to the girl. This is one very sad statistic that many people don't want to face, but 78% of inmates are people who either were abused by their fathers, had no fathers, or had no relationship with their fathers. A boy who's raised out of wedlock has a high chance of siring a kid out of wedlock when he grows up. A girl child who's raised without both parents has a high chance of becoming pregnant at a teenage level. These are facts that are on the table, but people don't want to get back and say, let's try to revive the institution of marriage because the male figure is lacking. T.D. James puts it very clear that there are women who've uh, had men, mourn, who had men talk, but they've never had a man share with them. Like they ask their men, what's up with you? Men always say, I'm okay. Or what are you thinking about? I'm thinking about nothing. And the African the African male figure in the family is so distant from the family. I ask my boys when they come to me. I teach in a boys' school, and I have a very close relationship of a big brother to them. When they come to call using my phone, they want to call home. 99% of boys are calling mom all the time. And I asked them one day, why are you never calling dad? Why is it that when you're broke, it's always mom? Why is it that when you're having a challenge in school, it's always mom? And they tell me, hey, mzae hapana. You see, they just dismiss it very fast, you know. Then I asked them, what does mzae do? You know,
Yeah.
like they start narrating to you how the father just comes and he has to watch news. Then after news, he's there with his newspaper. They don't see his face. And when he comes home, he's roaring. Who has done this? Who did this? What? He's trying to look at the mistakes that the children might have done while he was away. We're not having fathers who are coming home and kids are running after papa, and we're going to play some hide and seek before we settle down with paps to eat or do anything. We're not having
Definitely.
fathers who are sorry. So we're not having fathers who are sharing with their children the truth about them. I am very real with my students. And even in the subjects where I struggled, I'm very clear with them. All my students know I feared chemistry. That was my weakness. But you know, we have teachers who want to act like superhuman before their children, before the students. They tell them I was the brightest student. I never did mistakes. These mistakes that we see kids doing in school, we did them. Parents are the same. They cut that perfect figure to the children, and therefore they cannot relate with them. They intimidate them because your father tells you how good he was, how perfect he was, and therefore your challenges you can't share with him because you feel he doesn't know how to fall in love maybe at 13. You will not share because your father lies to you that the woman he dated was the woman he married, and therefore you look a bit immoral before your father. So we have refused to tell the truth to our children. They don't know our struggles. We cut the perfect figure to our children, and therefore they don't find a friend in the father or somebody that they can share with. And your purpose as a man is to channel the direction for this boy. If he writes a letter to a girl and they're teenagers, you have to be there. You have to know. You have to guide them the right thing. You have to tell them you might have done the same, but how did you get out of that? So we don't tell them how we got out of that because we are so perfect before them and therefore they will not be sharing anything with us. So the male figure is lacking in the family today. And that's why so many people are struggling. I thought I loved my father until I learned that I was not I was not given the right attention that I needed. And I had to go back to my father to make this thing clear to him that you never gave me the attention that I needed. And I understand why he did that. So we must seek to understand, seek to know that even our parents struggled, our teachers struggled, everybody struggled. And teachers and parents and pastors, we need to come very clear.
But that was a very, very great discussion over there with you, Andrea. And I guess the system again is not working. It's trying to repel the great conversation that we're having. But it's absolutely a very, very great discussion, and we can learn a lot from it. And you have gone away much more to what I expected. Really, I've listened to what you're saying, and I've seen a capacity of wisdom that I didn't know you have. I read your poems, yes, but you know, this is something that have caught me unaware, and I really wish that we can collaborate and have something like a weekly conversation on mental health and awareness, especially to the youth, and more so the male part of youth, so that because these are conversations that we are not discussing, we are not ready to speak about them, and we are just on everything is good, we are well, we can, that's what we are doing. So I really appreciate you for the time that you've taken to discuss with us a lot of wisdom and
Mm.
things that really need to be talked about, not things that we want to hear. These are the things we need to hear.
To talk
And
about.
yeah, so I think we've got to do this many times, not just today
Yeah.
alone, so that at
All
least
right.
we can help the boy child, we can help that male part of the society to understand why we
Yeah.
need to go back to the drawing board and be ourselves and speak up, not mom, not veil our pain, as you have put it.
Yes.
And I really
Yes.
love this kind of the topic you chose for this discussion, Andrea. So I really thank
Yes.
you for that. So I will
Yeah.
just like you to give us your parting shot in the fewest seconds possible so that we can wrap
Okay.
up this conversation, Andrea.
All right. Thank you so much, John, for giving me this opportunity. I like what you're doing, and I want people to join us to shape the world. People are struggling, people are having a lot of challenges with themselves, and they need people who can really put in work, go in there, dig into researches, get the right information, and bring it to them in a way that they can now understand. So let's keep doing the work. I always believe it's one nation under God. That is what drives me so much. And I know service to mankind is service to God. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea, and do have a nice day, my brother.
Thank you.